This is another in the first read series where I read a poem by a poet I don't know or know very little about for the sheer joy of it, and just to see whether I want to keep reading that person to find out a little bit about that person's work. I don't always come up with a great reading the first reading through. Sometimes I might read it differently once I know that person's work, but this is how you get into it. You just read it. This is by Courtney Hitson in the journal The Biscuit Hill. I know the journal a little bit. It's a nice little journal. I don't know Courtney Hitson at all. Hitson. And so this is the first poem I'm looking at. I always look at the form of a poem whenever I look at a poem. And I pick these kind of randomly. I don't read them beforehand or anything. So I look at this, and it's got 4 lines, 5, I don't know, way more than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 6. So different size stanzas. The lines are clearly different. So I'm not looking at some kind of metrical traditional piece here. I'm probably looking at more of a free verse thing, so I'll go with it that. I like to look at the end of the lines to see if there's any rhyme, and I don't really see much going on here with that, so I'm just going to go through and read it. Elephants. A pretty straightforward title. We'll see what happens. Parched terrain repurposed into their skin. So a lot of nice sounds in this first line. The P's repeating parched, purposed, and then the T's, terrain, there, coming out here. So nice sounds of it. Parched terrain repurposed into their skin with so many creases and cracks. I'm tempted to constellate stories from it. This is a nice line. I'm assuming this is talking about elephants because it kind of fits the image of an elephant with these creases and cracks in their skin and the terrain kind of on it. Tempted to constellate stories from it, which is interesting. Taking these creases and cracks and I come up with these stories that are constellated based on this. Sometimes elephants speak in low. And before I go on, I don't know if that's what is happening here. It's the temptation to constellate the stories. That's what we're going to get from the rest of this, or it's just going to keep describing elephants. Sometimes elephants speak in low, nearly inaudible rumbles that transmit underground. So there's a lot of nice language here. I like this poet has a nice ear, a good ear for sound in this. Sometimes elephants speak. It's very rhythmic. I mean, it's not a traditional meter, but you get this sometimes. Elephants stress and fance and speak in low, nearly inaudible rumbles. And this slight reverse of the metrical unit at the end, rumbles, that transmit underground. So these elephants speaking in these rumbles that transmit underground up to 10 miles out. A lot of T's in here. Nice sounds with this. Another elephant deciphers the sound's message in his foot. This kind of speaking through the rumbling in the ground that, a human might not pay any attention to, but an elephant might. Kind of other ways of speaking. It makes me want to ask, how many miles deep can they see inside of each other? That's just, a question which turns symbolic. There's not miles deep inside of somebody, but into these layers of themselves. How much does this physical feeling, being able to feel the speech, somebody else, how much does that help with a physical, into yourself? Maybe they're like us, looking with telescopes into their parents' dark echelons for elapsed celestial events, just now emerging, studying light patterns burnt into myth. Which is, a play on, I think, this section here. Maybe they're like us, looking with telescopes in their parents' dark echelons. It sounds like, some kind of therapeutic event where you're looking into your parents, your past, your parents' past, how much they've worked it into you, how much is really an event, how much is as a myth of your own family, of your own life, of your own culture, and how much is just your parents' myth that's been passed down, and it's just now emerging. How much these things emerge sometimes when you don't expect them to emerge. I think that's a nice little section here. taking this kind of elephant's depth into the depth that we go down into ourselves. And the elephant is these kind of mythic creatures themselves. So nice little section, nice stanza here. Elephants know of another death from hundreds of miles away. Of another's death from 100 miles away. We don't understand how this happens. So it's a good kind of way of communicating that we don't understand, that they understand we don't, which happens with human to human as well. We don't understand how this happens, but they return to pay respects as if walking towards a single, starless section of the sky, as if they know exactly where they're going. Where there are no stars, that's where they're leading to, this kind of void in the sky that's been left by this other elephant leaving. And it's kind of a neat little poem that plays around with, how different communication happens in animal life and how that relates to humans and how, in some ways, we do similar things, but also don't understand our own depths and have trouble seeing into each other that much. Trying to distinguish between the myth, what we understand about something, what we don't. Some myth of how the elephants speak, how our parents, our families, culture speak to us and don't. The language in it is nothing, I would say, super elaborate. There's a couple of words in it that kind of stand out. But other than that, I would say it's fairly straightforward. There's a lot of alliteration, consonants coming up, which I think is nice. So makes me want to ask how many miles. So the M's coming out here, a lot of T sounds earlier on, as we saw. The P's at the very beginning. But you get like echelons, elapsed, celestial events just now emerging. This kind of E sound coming out really works pretty well with the elephant. So really nice sense of a poet's voice, and the poem itself kind of sticks to itself, doesn't keep going too far, doesn't explain too much. Like I said, this is Courtney Hitson. I don't know anything about the person. There's nothing on this page except for the person's name, so worth checking out, looking up, and finding out more about this person.